To another episode of the Unnamed Bracketology podcast. My name is Kerry Miller, joined as always by my good friend Graham Doran. I've done that intro so many times. Now my wife will come downstairs and be like, "Greetings and welcome." And it's kind of funny, but it is SEC Friday, and good number of these teams at the top of the list we talked about at the mock reveal last night. We'll see how many of them come up on Saturday. But Graham, what about the SEC are you most looking forward to getting into today?
I think the bubble is the story for the SEC more so than any other conference because what's really interesting to me about the SEC is I think they're all in right now. Any team that has an argument to be in, I think every single one of them is in. I don't think that's going to be the case here in a few weeks, but for now, they're all on the right side of the bubble.
Yeah, and we'll get into that. Last week we went through the whole wins above bubble, what's it going to take exercise, and we haven't really done that this week, but I think with the SEC in particular, it was worth revisiting. So let's get the share. Where's the spreadsheet? There it is. Boom. All right. So these teams up top, we both expect Florida to be a 3 seed tomorrow. We both expect Alabama to be a 4 seed, although if they're not, we have a whole Bediaco conspiracy. I don't even know if it's a conspiracy, just a fact that they're not counting those wins as much as they are because, I mean, look at that wob. They are, you know, point 0.3 ahead of Florida, 0.7 ahead of Vanderbilt, who is 17th in wob. I think if they were to leave out Alabama, that's really saying something. And likely Vanderbilt, Arkansas, and Tennessee will, if they mention four teams that were close but didn't make the top 16, we expect to see them there. Anything on those five teams you want to talk about before we transition to the bubble?
I think Arkansas, if there was like a major surprise that's in the top 16, it could be them, but I just don't know how you give it to them over Alabama, considering Alabama picked up that victory the other day, even if it was at home. And Vandy, maybe they have an argument to be over Vandy, but Vandy's just so metrically solid in comparison. I think, yeah, maybe Arkansas is the team that could do it. I just don't expect it to happen.
I think I agree with both parts of that. Certainly, Vanderbilt has the best metrics, the best record in the entire conference, not just among these other three teams, but without those quad 1A wins and even that one home win over Alabama has some, asterisks on it. No Aiden Sherrill, no Phylon in the second half, barely held on anyway. Yeah, I do think since you mentioned Arkansas, it's very interesting if Arkansas holds serve down the stretch, SEC's seed list shrinks by two, possibly three. Like if they sweep Missouri, Missouri's probably out. If they hold serve in those home games against Texas and Texas A&M, those two teams still have to play each other. So, one of the two is going to get at least two more losses, probably three, and then they will fall out. So I think Arkansas is the real the Occam's razor, if you will, of the SEC.
Well,
Let's go down here to the
while we're
bubble.
looking at it, we haven't really talked
Yeah.
about Tennessee much this year, but they have
Yeah.
that win over Alabama on the road. They beat Houston on a neutral court. And then you look at Vanderbilt. They've got them twice. Maybe Tennessee has the something to sneak up into those top four seeds, get a protected
Oh, yeah.
seed, even though they really haven't been there the entire season.
Yeah, and their second worst loss was a home game against Kentucky. Like you're not going to be able to really poke holes in their resume. I mean, even at Syracuse, like that was a 2 point game on what was just a terrible night for Nate Amen. I think he shot like 2 for 14 from the field or something, and I think Syracuse was like at its healthiest point of the season then, and they've picked off a couple of teams this season. Like that's not a terrible loss. So yeah, I think even beyond top 16, like if Tennessee, boy, if they sweep Vanderbilt and they pick up if they finish off a sweep of Alabama as well, they could end up being the highest seed in the entire SEC. I mean, I don't think it would take much for their resume to catch up to Florida's. Maybe not. Even if they get there, I don't know if anybody would be picking Tennessee to win the SEC tournament over Florida, but they could have the strongest resume when all is said and done. Let's go down here to the more bubbly teams. We didn't really mention Kentucky's kind of that tweener. They're not on the bubble, but they're nowhere close to a 4 or 5 seed right now. I think even if they were to, what their WOB is 3.01, neither of those would be a bad loss. I mean, they're fine. As long as they don't go 0-5, I don't think they're even going to come into conversation. They're going to fit into that 7-8 type seed range. Could certainly climb if they were to finish strong, but I don't trust Kentucky. The 8-9 quad 1-2 record is problematic. So if that were to turn into 8-14 on a 17-14 overall record, that'd be bad. But they're fine for now. So let's focus on these bubble teams. And as I said, where is it? There we go. So all of these teams, Texas, Missouri, Georgia, Texas A&M, Auburn, their wins above bubble ranges from 1.04 to 1.54, which if they maintain that, I think they'd all be fine. They're all in right now for each of us. I mean, we don't like having Auburn in with 12 losses. They forced me to, change the width of this cell because of their 12 in the loss column. But they're still in. They have four, I mean, two really good wins, four quad one wins. Even the loss at Mississippi State, it's not horrible, but they need to prove it down the stretch. I think more so than any of these five teams. Just off the cuff, which of the five do you think is most likely to get in, and which one do you think is most likely to miss?
I would say Texas is the most likely to get in, but I don't think it's by a big amount. And the reason why I mentioned that is they get Florida at home. That's a pretty tough home game to have coming up against one of the best teams. And then if you beat Oklahoma at home, that doesn't really do that much for you. So all of a sudden, you better deliver in your road games against Arkansas, Texas A&M, and Georgia. That's a dangerous path for Texas. I do think they're the best team here, and I do think they have the best head start, but I just don't really like that path to a tournament bid. So I'm still going to go them, but by a small amount. The next team in line for me is Missouri. I don't think Missouri is the best team of these five. In fact, I think they're the worst team of these five. But when I look at what they've done already, it jumps off the page. Versus Florida, versus Vanderbilt, at Kentucky, at Texas A&M. You get that team on the bubble and you compare it to the other teams on the bubble, those wins are just devastatingly good in comparison. We saw what Texas did last year to get into the field despite having a lot of question marks. The committee has always loved big wins at the bubble. I think Missouri's in really good shape.
Yeah, I think they're in good shape. I do think they easily could lose four of these last five games. Same with Texas. Like it's a tough slate for both of them. Probably a little bit more so Missouri, although I guess Texas's max gain from their remaining games of a 3.2 indicates that their schedule is a little bit harder. But yeah, I think Texas A&M is probably most likely to fall out. Every time I look at them, I keep wanting to drop them. You actually have dropped them a good bit further than me. I guess they're in a play-in game for you. I have them as my top 11 seed, so they're close to Dayton. But as I was typing all these in, it dawned on me that all of these bubble teams, with the exception of Missouri, right, lost at home to Texas A&M, lost at home to Texas A&M, lost at home to Texas A&M. Now, granted, every team in the bubble or every team in the field, it seems, for the SEC has a win over Auburn, with the exception of Florida, which is just so funny. But I think Texas A&M having those three road wins is what keeps them somewhat comfortably. I mean, not comfortably, but above Dayton for me. But there's nothing beyond that. Their fourth best win was that home game against LSU. I don't think they have a quad. They don't have a quad 1B win. I don't think they have a quad 2A win. And all three of those quad 1A wins that they have are borderline. Well, we have Auburn's 34 in the net, Texas is 35, Georgia is 39. So they're one bad SEC day away from going from 3-4 against Quad 1A to 0-4 against Quad 1A. I mean, we talk about it all the time. It's the results that matter, not the quad-based records, but it would be hard to not notice that change and have it affect your opinion of the Aggies in general. Let's talk about Georgia just a little bit, because I think they were their last one was at Kentucky, right? Like they
Yes.
were my last team in before that, and now they're Are they my highest? No, 39. Bottom, near the bottom of the 10 seed line. You have them at the top of the 10 seed line. Either way, they're looking all right. They probably have the weakest schedule of the bunch. They get South Carolina at home. They really should win the road game against Mississippi State. We'll see. And they should win the home game against Texas, but we'll see. We got a couple of these bubble teams squaring off, but how are you feeling on Georgia since we haven't touched on them yet?
I'm not feeling great about Georgia, to be honest. Even after the win at Kentucky, I'm just really questioning the potential for Georgia to fall out of the bracket. And you wouldn't really think so when you look at the quad 1-2 record. 9-7. They already have a road win at Kentucky. They have a road win at Missouri if it comes down to it. But as you mentioned, that schedule presents a different kind of danger. If they don't perform well, it looks a lot worse. And I look at home against Alabama. Do I think they're going to win that game? Probably not. I think Alabama's probably going to win that. Texas, Georgia seems kind of like a coin flip to me, even in Athens. All of a sudden, they lose both of those games. It is a really difficult path to a bid for them because they probably have to win at least two amongst the South Carolina Mississippi State games in Vanderbilt. But more likely, I think they probably have to win in Nashville at that point. So um, I'm a little bit curious about Georgia. I think they're the one that you maybe have the least sympathy for. At least Texas A&M, if you see those road wins over Auburn, Texas, and Georgia, maybe you get a little sympathy for winning multiple three big road games. Auburn, they went out and they scheduled really tough. Georgia, I'm just like, you didn't schedule tough. I don't feel bad for you if you lose out on the field. I think Georgia's going to be, of these five teams, the one the committee will want to pick on. I think they will not want to pick on Auburn. They're only going to do it if they have to. But Georgia, you just kind of want to leave them out of the field if there's any way to do that.
Noticing you hate Georgia. Okay. No, I think I agree, especially having done just nothing in non-conference play. I mean, the only non-conference game, even among their worst losses and best wins, was the neutral game against Clemson, which I think they lost in overtime. But yeah, being 1-3 against Quad 1A hurts. Being 9-7 against Quads 1 and 2 helps. That's why they're in. Now, granted, that 0-1 Quad 3 record is kind of crazy. If this committee's looking at quads 1 through 3 more so than quads 1 and 2, that's going to definitely hurt Georgia's case. But so you see over here the range for what their WOB could be. Now, these are the official NCAA wins above bubble marks as of today. And then I added in the Torvik estimated WOB as we did last week for those. So with each of these teams, if they were to win out, they would hit whatever is at the top of that max. So Texas, if they go 5-0, they'd be 4.48. So for each of them, each loss, they would go down one full win above bubble from that. So if Georgia goes 3-2, so if they pick up two losses, they would still be 1.86 wins above bubble, and it'd be really hard, I think, to leave out a team that is that close to almost 2 wins above bubble. But if they go 2-3, for all of these teams, if any of them go 2-3, I think they probably get left out at, less than 1 win above bubble, unless they do, something really impressive in the SEC tournament, especially now that apparently they are really on a campaign to prove that the conference tournaments matter. I don't think I've ever heard that much talk about it as we did yesterday, but I guess, the committee was meeting and the mock committee was meeting. They were trying to prove a point. We'll see if it actually comes up. I'm not going to change how I handle it. I'm not going to really adjust anything based on results from Friday onward to Selection Sunday. But which of these teams? Oh, I already asked. Which one do you think is going to fall out? Yeah, Texas A&M probably. What do you think if Auburn finishes 17-14? What do they need to do in the SEC tournament? Just not lose their opener?
Win one game, and I think they're in. I think, again, Auburn is going to have a lot of sympathy from the committee for the way they scheduled. And I do think they could kind of break the way we think about bubble teams. We tend to think about them needing to be a few games over 500. I don't think that's the case for Auburn this year. I think their WOB would necessarily be above 1 at that point. It's going to be really hard to leave out a team above 1. So I think if you look at all three of those teams, Georgia, Texas A&M, and Auburn, it's a very simple calculation. 3-2, they're dancing. 2-3, let's see what happens in the SEC tournament. Anything worse than that, and they're out.
I think that can conclude us for today. Surprisingly beautiful slate of games tonight for a Friday. Indiana, Purdue, if you're of the major conference persuasion. VCU at St. Louis is a massive game. Could get the Rams back really into the conversation. I think they're among the first four out right now. And then, of course, you got Miami, Ohio, trying to maintain their undefeated record at home against Bowling Green. Did I say bowling? Bowling. That word's stuck in my mouth. I don't know. That's a good place to stop. Until next time, take care and enjoy the hoops.